What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We're back in the garage with a new project. We are going to get to pulling that motor out of the box truck and putting it in something new. I picked up this old girl the other day. This is an 86 F150. This is an XLT, so it's kind of a higher option, shall we say. Version of this truck, you know, it had just the fanciness. Long story short, fella I bought this from, he pulled the motor out, was gonna put a bigger engine, I don't know, in it. Didn't. Sold to me for a real good deal. This truck, love the patina, looks beautiful. The only rust on this truck is right there and a little bit in the bed over there. Now what we're gonna do with this truck is, like I said, we're gonna rip the motor out of the box truck and we're gonna put it in here. He did the hard part of removing the old motor. And we're just gonna get this thing back on the road. Not gonna do anything crazy, not gonna do anything too fancy with it other than get it running, get it driving so that I can drive it. This is obviously an automatic truck, as you can see. We're gonna swap it out for the 5-speed that's with the 7.3, just because that's more fun for me and, you know, more work. We're gonna try to swap the pedals out of the other truck and the shifter and all that good jazz, of course. Obviously that's an 88, this is an 86, different body styles. However, these trucks could come manual, so we'll figure out a way to make it fit. But then a bunch of little, you know, door panels and such. This thing's in really good shape. The underside is beautiful. I have the hood, as you can see. We're missing a tail light. But other than that, everything's here. Oh, and you know, missing some important things down there, but we'll figure that out. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into this thing, man. Like I said, this isn't gonna be a too crazy technical video. We're gonna just try to get this old girl running with parts that we got. I mean, obviously we're gonna have to buy a few little things here and there, but we'll make it work. So let's jump into this thing. First thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna pull the front clip off of this thing, and then we're gonna go out back and start pulling the motor. I gotta pull the front clip off and everything out of that, all the transmission doodads and suches. And then we'll yank him out and put him in this bad boy. So let's get to it. I don't wanna waste no more time. I'm gonna get as much done as I can. I'm excited, so let's go. All right, it's a new day. I was able to get all the sheet metal off the front. I just sat this back on here for now. I did drop the transmission. It was held in by a ratchet strap and shifter linkage. And I managed to drop the front fuel tank out. It is very full of disgusting varnish and rust. So I'm not even gonna mess with the tanks. I'm just going to go ahead and order new ones. They're cheap. But for now, this thing is about as stripped down as I want it to be for right now. We are going to go ahead and move outside and start ripping apart the diesel. We're just gonna pull the drivetrain, radiator, and all that sort of stuff. And we'll get to dropping it in here. Everything looks like it should fit in here. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. I may have to pull the cross member off the other one. We'll see what that one looks like. And yeah, let's get this thing out so we can drop it in here so we can get this thing fired up. So let's go. All right, so it's basically the same thing. It's the other truck. There's just, you know, an engine in it. We're gonna work on pulling the whole front end off of it. I'll probably pull the fenders and everything off. We're gonna start with the radiator because I need it and it's very expensive and this one works fine. So rip that out and then probably try to rip the front end off and then just start unplugging the motor. There's not much to it wiring wise. We just gotta get all the little stuff, you know, power steering lines, AC lines, all that's gotta come off. Pull the wiring harness, yada yada, fuel lines, whatever. So we're gonna jump into that. Then I'll crawl under, disconnect transmission and whatnot, and we'll get to it. So let's not waste any time. Let's start ripping out. All right, so I was looking through going to do some editing, and I realized that 90% of me pulling the engine out of the other one was either not in focus or I didn't video half of it because I was just trying to get the engine out. Engine's out, let's just put it that way. So, onto this truck. Now to mount this motor, this crossmember is different. It's got these little stanchions here. I don't know what they're for, but those are just bolted on, so I'm gonna unbolt them. That and this are the original mount plates for the 7.3 in the 88. If you look, this crossmember has holes in it. If that is out of the way, this thing will line up with the top two holes. That should bolt right up. And this one, I think if we can scooch this over some, will line up with that hole. Basically, it fits. The only thing is this one isn't gonna have a mount because that hole's there. But everything else will bolt right in. So I'm gonna unbolt these, and then we'll bolt these mounts in. I took a bunch of measurements. Once I get them bolted in, I'll measure to make sure they're the same width, height, and everything. And then we should. All right, so I was wrong. This side, so my 2 bolts and 4 rivets. This side was held in with all bolts. As you can see, the top 2 bolts line up just fine. So I'm gonna drill some 2 holes right here, and I need to oblong this hole up here and down here a little bit because the bolts go through this for the motor mount. You can see where they were sitting down here at the bottom. So I'm gonna mark this, we'll cut that. I got a big punch or chisel at work. I'll grab it tomorrow and we'll chisel that off to get this other mount on, and then we will be in business. I think this is gonna work out really good with these plates. Should be able to drop this thing in. So tomorrow I'm gonna get that, knock that out. I'm gonna try to get the master cylinder out of the other truck and the pedals. And we'll see if we can make them fit in here. And then we'll be ready to drop the motor in. I did, big score, yesterday. Ran down the road a little bit and picked up a new rear axle. And the guy even had a front axle. I'm 99% sure, I've never done it, but I'm measuring. It's the exact same as the 2-wheel drive stuff. The mounts, the widths, everything is the exact same. So these should bolt right up. Obviously it's a 2-wheel drive engine. I don't have a transfer case, but we'll look for a divorce transfer case later down the road. I just want to get this thing running. As you can see, I got the motor out. This is it in all of its gigantic glory. The 5-speed right here. So once we get these mounts set up, go ahead and drop this thing in. As you can see, well, you can't see on this side. This is the mount. These 2 bolts slid in those 2 holes. It was held in from the back with a nut. But yeah, pretty simple stuff. This engine seems to be in good shape. The valve cover's leaking a hair. I might change them while the thing's out. It'd be easiest. It would make the most sense. But you know, probably not. Anywho, we are going to hopefully knock these engine mounts out tomorrow, and I will try to pull the clutch stuff out, or the master cylinders out, and we'll get to working on them. So let's not waste any time. Let's get to it. Okay, so Torch made quick work of the rivets, and that top bolt lines up. So all I have to do is drill holes there. This one isn't going to land on anything. I'm not worried about that being structural enough. This one, like I said, just got to drill 2 holes at the bottom. And these line up perfect measurements with what was on the other truck. I went from top to top is the exact same, from bolt hole to bolt holes are the exact same. So we are good. This thing will bolt right in. I got to drill 4 holes and we should be good. This one I don't have to cut, but this one I got to trim a little bit. And then we're going to be set to drop this motor in. So like I said, tomorrow, I'm going to shoot to get the clutch stuff in, or the master cylinders and stuff done. And once I get that in, it's the last thing I got to kind of mess with under here. Then we'll go ahead and stab the motor in. But I do have to pull the carpet out of this truck. This pan is what came out of the parts truck. This is for the shifter and everything. So I'm gonna pull the carpets out of this one and see what the floor looks like under there. And then see if I can mount this somewhere down there. Like it should just bolt-ish right in. I cut a big old hole and we'll call it good enough. All right, after some work, seat's out. Thing weighs 800 pounds. However, got the carpet peeled back. Driver's side floorboard's perfect. That's just padding from the carpet. Just a little surface rust right around there. Passenger side, however, does have a little rust in it. There's some pinholes there. There's that hole. And then right here is the worst of it. But it's just these little spots, which is weird. It's not the whole floor or anything. I'm gonna just patch these with some flat sheet metal that I got. We'll cut these out in a little bit and patch those up. But the reason I peel back the carpet is for this shifter hump. As you can see, Ford wanted this swap to be easy because this fits perfectly in that groove. So that's where all right, we finally got the floors patched. That's taken care of. Rust solved. I am going to now, I gotta tighten these mounts down, never did that, and then pull the cross member out for the transmission. You can see the drive shaft back there. I'm gonna pull that out. And then what we can do is start pulling the pedal assembly out, the steering column, and all that good jazz, so we can swap the new ones in. And then if nothing else, we can start pulling suspension. Well, let's make a game plan. So let's jump to it. We got a lot to do, so let's go. All right, so today's the day we're gonna finally try to stuff this engine in here. We gotta get it hooked back up as a tractor, and we're just gonna see if we can dangle it in here and bolt it up. Should be simple, should be easy. I got the transmission crossmember gone, so the only thing we gotta do is get the mounts lined up. Should be pretty straightforward. We're gonna throw a time lapse on this thing and try to get it in. So let's go. All right, and like that, the motor is in. It's sitting on both of the mounts. We've got good clearance in the back, and the transmission is sitting right where it needs to be in its little hole. Let's see if this looks. Well, would you look at that? Almost like it was meant to be. Now, obviously, the transmission's got to sit down a little bit because it's on a jack, not a crossmember. Excuse me, guys. I'm a little getting over being sick. Don't tell my wife I'm out here. I'm not supposed to be. But it's in. The motor's sitting in, the straps are a little loose, so we are where we need to be. This thing fits beautifully. The tractor wasn't long enough. I was hitting the bumper, and I didn't want to take the bumper off, so we went with the crane. But it is sitting in place. Now I need to go ahead. I got a new oil filter. If you notice, I had to remove the oil filter and the starter because they were hitting the cross when we were trying to come out the other truck. So I'm gonna throw an oil filter on it real quick, and well, I guess I'll go ahead and change the oil while I do that. But man, the motor is sitting in. That is a great load off my mind. It fits wonderfully. Now, I'm gonna get up under here, bolt the motor mounts down. I'm gonna see if the original cross member will work. This is the one that came out of here. I think it's the exact same as the other one. I just gotta grab the mount off the other one, and then we should be okay. So I'm gonna go grab that mount after I bolt the motor mounts down, and we'll see if we can't get this thing back in and hold the transmission up. So let's jump to that. All right, now we have got pretty much all the suspension done. I gotta wait on some rear brakes to come in and rebuild those, and I do have to change the fluid in the diffs. But other than that, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a weird gap in here because I'm planning on making this own video. But we went ahead and put a 4-inch rough country lift kit on this thing, and I put in a solid front, or not solid, a 4-wheel drive front axle. This is the twin beam Dana suspension. I'm 99% sure the video for the lift kit should be done well before this video is, but the lift kit's on its own separate video, so go check that out if you haven't. But let me show you what we got. We got a 4-inch rough country suspension lift on a, I don't know what this is. Either Dana 50 or Dana 44 front axle. Guy said it came out of an 87 F150. So, you know, I don't know what that means. Anywho, it's a bolt-in job. Everything is bolted right up with all the brackets and everything. Using the original coil buckets, all that stuff. Man, you gotta love older trucks because the brake calipers, same. 2-wheel drive versus 4-wheel drive, same thing. Brake lines, all that stuff, all the same. Brake pads, same. So I don't have to change that stuff out. I am gonna change this hose out because it's disgusting. But the calipers seem to be in good shape. This hose looks like it's been replaced. So we're gonna leave all that crap. I got some pads coming. In the rear, I swapped in the rear axle with this thing. If you remember, the other one doesn't have gears in it. So this is in with our lift blocks and shocks and all that stuff. Bolts right in, no problem. I'm waiting on some rear brake shoes and drums to show up. I'm gonna redo the brakes, and then I gotta swap in the e-brake cables from the old axle. As of right now, this truck, like I've said before, is gonna stay 2-wheel drive because I don't have a transfer case. I wanna keep the 5-speed, and I'm gonna eventually get a divorce transfer case just because it's cheaper than finding a 4-speed 4-wheel drive or a 5-speed 4-wheel drive transmission. But we'll do that in a little bit. I just want this thing to get running, but we're getting back on it. I went and scavenged a ton of stuff off the donor truck. I got the steering column out, the pedal assemblies out, the master cylinder for the clutch out. That is the speedo cable. I pulled the vacuum block off for all that and swapped it in. So what we're gonna do now is dive into here. I got to pull this. I got to pull this dash apart, pull the steering column out to get to the pedal assemblies because the pedal assembly go up and over that. And then I got to cut a hole for the master cylinder to go through and all that jazz. So we're gonna start on this. Start by removing some of these dash panels and whatnot, and then we will. Ooh, my camera's all over the place. And then we will start swapping in the pedals and get this clutch thing set up. I want to try to get the drivetrain ready because I'm going to be ordering the gas tank here in the next few days, and we are going to try to get this thing running real soon. So let's dive into this dash and start ripping things out. Alrighty, now I got the pedal box out, steering columns out, and man, again, I'm telling y'all, old trucks are the best because the 3 pedal, or the manual pedal fits right in. This thing right here, what mounts the steering column, is an inch wider, but it still fits directly in place, bolted right up to the brake master cylinder. I got travel on the pedals, no problems. And even the steering columns are the exact same. Automatic, that's the manual steering column. The plugs are the exact same wires and everything. They just go to the blinkers and whatnot. The ignition switches are the exact same. The only difference is that's an inch shorter than that one. And obviously that one's the manual versus the automatic. So we're gonna stick with this manual one. It'll bolt right into place, no problem. I am gonna get, both of these steering wheels are tore up, but I'm gonna get another 86 steering wheel and put it on this column, just cause make it match. But this should bolt right up. The steering output's the same, so everything should be simple and easy. I do have a little bit of wiring to fix in here. As you can see, this one's melting. He is tapped into it. There's a bunch of just random wires that have been added to this thing. So we're gonna clean that up a little bit before I put the steering column on. I am gonna pull the gauge cluster while we're here so that I can put the speedo cable from the old one in, because the ends are different. And then I am gonna, while I have the gauge cluster out, try to figure out what wires go to the gauges so that I can run them to the new gauges or the new sensors on the engine. This guy that pulled this motor, it looks like he cut some of the main harness wiring. All the wiring that goes to the back of the truck is still there. Headlight harnesses are still there. Wiper thing's still there. That's for cruise control stuff. However, I got nothing else coming out of here for mains. I just got random plugs coming out, random wires dangling here, there, and everywhere. So we're gonna do a lot of figuring out to figure out what goes where. There's a handful of cut wires. Everything else is just plugs, it looks like. So we got a lot of figuring out to do on this wiring situation. However, I still gotta cut a hole in the firewall. As you can see right there, I don't know, hang on, let me see if I can get y'all in there. Right there, that little indentation right there is where the master cylinder would come through the firewall. So I'm gonna cut that out and we'll get this master cylinder bolted in before we ever put the steering column and stuff back in the way. It kind of mounts just right here-ish. I think that indentation might be one of where the mounts would go, but we'll punch a hole out. I do have to fill in that giant hole. That's from, I'm guessing, some sort of electrical connector, but we'll deal with that in a little bit. Let's get this dash out and get the speedo cable and stuff put in, and then let's start cutting this hole for the clutch master and keep things moving on. So let's go. All right, we got the pedals and the clutch master all in and set up. You can see we got everything. I got the brakes hooked back up and the brake light switch hooked up. The master's there hooked up to the pedal. Moves when you hit the lever. And we got plenty of room for the master up here. Everything's rerouted. I got there's a tab right there that screws into this. Is the throttle cable. Holds that up against the firewall. Everything is routed out of the way, and we are good to go clutch wise. All right, so we're taking a break from the clutch and stuff for a second because my brake parts have showed up. I got new wheel cylinders, shoes, and drums. There are 10 million drum brake tutorials on YouTube, so I'm not gonna mess with any of that. I'm just gonna rip this stuff out, put all the new stuff in, and knock it out. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the e-brake cables out because these were cut by the previous owner, and I got the ones off the old axle that was in here, and we'll install those while we're in here. So I'm gonna knock this out real quick, and we'll get back on to some more stuff. So let's go. All right, so we're still working on the truck. I'm kind of at a standstill right now, doing a bunch of little piddly stuff. I was able to sell the Cutlass over the weekend. It's gone. And I immediately spent every penny I made from that thing for this. which wasn't a lot of stuff, but it was a lot of bigger stuff. So we got a ton of parts on the way. I got master cylinder, brake calipers, brake lines, fuel, both tanks, both sending units, fuel selector valve, some U-joints for the drive shaft, an end-yoke for the drive shaft, a bunch of bigger stuff, radiator, starters, some stuff like that. So in the meantime, I've been doing a lot of little stuff. I'm just cannibalizing the 88 out there for this thing. These 88, 86 was a different body style. Same truck, just looked a little different, I guess. The nose was different and stuff like that. So I am able to save a ton of stuff on this thing. I switched the dimmer switch because the original one broke in half. I was able to get the pad for the, what do you call that stupid thing? I was able to get the pad for the emergency brake, you know, little stuff like that. I'm gonna use these door panels. Those are the ones that came on it. Now they're different style, but obviously they fit just fine. So what I'm doing is, I'm gonna steal the lock and door bezels, I guess you call it, and put them on here because a reman set of these are $400, and that's definitely not happening. So I'm gonna use those. I even installed the speakers out of the doors in the other truck. So most of this stuff switches over. These are door handles out of the 88. This one was missing them. So a bunch of little stuff switched over. I'm waiting on everything to get here. Nothing's showed up yet. These are all parts I found inside the truck out there. I got 2 new radiator hoses, 3 new belts, another fuel filter. I already put one on that was in the car. There's a starter solenoid. So I got a bunch of just good stuff. Bunch of usable parts. For right now, we got the rear brakes and everything's done. That's, you just gotta bleed it once the master gets here. For right now, we're gonna try to finish the inside of this truck. As you can see, I got a little pinhole right here. This is where the dimmer switch sits. So I'm gonna cut this out. Oh, focus. So I'm gonna cut this out and patch that. Get that finished. And once I finish that, I can clean this thing out and I'm gonna coat the floors in some rust sealant paint. And then we can put the trans hump back in, which I'm also gonna paint. Put the carpet back down finally. I do have to drill an extra hole for this. The speedometer cable, it originally went through the firewall up there, that little light sticking through. Well, because of that, it's not long enough to reach the transmission. The one on the 88 out there, it goes to the floor right here. There's a little kind of bump it right there. That's where it went through on that one. So we're gonna have to drill that hole real quick and rerun that. Gauge cluster, I got all new bulbs for it. I went ahead with the gauge cluster because I was bored. And I took the, if I can find it, this is the 88. This is the wait to start and fuel, water and fuel light. And I went ahead and clumped that bad boy into here. So I'm gonna run the wait to start light off of there. That was emissions. I don't need to mess with that jazz. And this one even has the provision for 4-wheel drive. It just didn't have a light because it was 2-wheel drive. So we'll get that working if and when we ever get a transfer case. All right, floors are dry, so we're gonna go ahead and pull everything out of here and slam this interior back together so that we can continue moving forward. So let's jump this real quick. All right, so I realized I've been doing a lot more talking than working on this truck, so I kind of stopped filming for a while. I got a bunch of unfilmable-ish stuff done. But this is how it sits as of now. I got a bunch, like I said, boring stuff done. I've been working a ton on wiring, which is just me tracing wires to see what went where. I've gotten both fuel tanks in. They're just bolted up for now. I put new glow plugs in it. Bunch of dumb little stuff. So right now, next thing I'm jumping into is this fuel selector valve. Now this truck was an EFI truck. It had a high pressure fuel pump on the frame rail, and then it also had this little fuel selector filter doodad for the lines. I'm going back to this style for the diesel. I'm pretty sure that one would have worked, but I don't know. I'm going to this anyway. So what we got to do is wire this thing in. It's pretty simple. This is the pigtail I cut out of the old truck. This is a new one because I broke the other one. It needs the 2 powers from the in-tank fuel pumps that used to be on the EFI. It needs, I think this yellow one goes to the fuel gauge, and then the other 2 are the fuel cinder, fuel tank level from the 2 tanks. So I'm gonna wire this up real quick, fairly simple. And then we'll jump back into, I gotta do some more wiring, and then hopefully we're almost to the point of trying to turn this thing over. So I'm gonna wire this up real quick, and then we'll get back to under the hood and see if we can't try to spark some life to her. So let me jump into this and we'll jump to it. All right, so full disclaimer, I've been working on this thing for probably a month now and have 0 footage to show because it's all been wiring. I wired up the gauges. I wired all the engine stuff, which isn't a lot for this truck other than the normal stuff, AC and stuff. I hooked back up, all that jazz, and powers to the injection pump, stuff like that. There's no footage of it because it's all boring and stupid. I've already talked way too much in this video, but we got some new tires. I got some used 33-inch tires. As you can tell, I put the core support and this one fender back on. That was mainly because I had to mount these businesses. But yeah, the truck looks good sitting up like this. Everything I've gotten done, like I said, 90% of it was wiring other than me bolting this stuff on. Right now, we're moving on to the radiator because I'm gonna lose my mind if I look at wires anymore. I just finished cutting out the bottom part of the core support because obviously this 7.3 radiator is gigantic. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing in here. These are the original brackets out of the F350. They bolt to this part and then hold the radiator. So we're gonna slap this radiator in here, see how it fits real quick. And hopefully this will be a bolt up thing. And then I'll just come back and extend this cross member down and put that back in. I've talked so much in this video, I'm sure it's boring for people, but let me jump to that real quick and let's get this radiator hung. All right, so the radiator's in. I've got it full of coolant, no leaks, so that's a plus. We are finally able to try to turn this thing over. I broke the original starter. I broke the stud off the solenoid. And it's literally cheaper to get a high torque mini starter than it is to get a stock starter, which is weird. But that finally came in and I've got it bolted up. As you can see, I got the battery hooked up. There's one on the other side over there on the tire. And we're gonna try to spin this thing over. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to try to start it. I just wanna see if my electricals are anywhere near correct. Should be, because there's only like 5 wires on this whole motor. I think the glow plug relay was bad. I don't know, we'll test that too. But let's see if this thing turns over. I'm gonna need some motivation to keep going on this thing, so let's hit the key and see what happens. All right, so as you can hear the glow plug relay clicking, that thing is shot. It's got new glow plugs in it. The wiring is good, but I guess the relay controller setup is shot. So what I did is ran a thick power wire straight to the output on the relay to the glow plugs. I've run it right here, so we're just gonna manually glow plug them real quick. See if we can't get this thing to start. I've got fuel pressure at the Schrader valve on the fuel filter. So we should have fuel. My injection pump's got power when you turn the key on. So we should be good. I'm gonna set the camera up and we're gonna hold the glow plugs for a second. And let's see if we can get this thing to start. So let's jump into it. All right, full disclosure, I've done a lot. I accidentally got it running off camera, of course. What I figured out was my power wire coming in here for the injection pump was also teed in to a bunch of other stuff, the AC thing, the cold out of the vans, a bunch of other stuff. And when I was turning the key on, not to mention the batteries weren't the greatest in the world. When I turned the key on, I got 12 volts, but when I cranked it, it went down to 8.5 at the actual injection pump. So I wasn't getting enough power to the solenoid to keep it open during cranking. I fixed some wiring and wired up the alternators and charged the batteries, and she fires up. The glow plug relay is still hot garbage, so I've got my glow plugs right there. I got a new one coming, obviously. But that's on, and I went ahead and scavenged the exhaust system from the box truck and kind of cobbled together a little, it's just straight pipe, but it'll do for now. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do exhaust-wise. I might just run a new exhaust system, or I might go smokestacks, but we'll figure that out later. But without further ado, let's hear this puppy run. Glow plugs. Alrighty, and just like that, she is alive. Now, granted, this was the first movement it's done. The clutch sucks, the brake sucks. I can't put the intake cover thing on because some hoses are in the way. We got a lot of little things to do, still waiting on a tail light, but this thing finally lives. All right, so quick update. There were two major reasons why my clutch pedal wasn't disengaging. One, this little clutch lever is what actually throws the clutch in and out. It was set too far back, so the pedal was actually pulled in a little bit to get to the clutch. That's probably just because the 88 and the 86 were a little bit different. There's a different gap between the firewall. So I'm gonna move this up a little bit. It's kind of, I wouldn't say splined. It looks more like it makes its own splines as it goes on there. The other main problem is this. This is what's left of the bushing. The rod, let me see if I can get you guys under there. I know this is a horrible view, but clutch pedal pushes this rod that goes through here, which then comes out. They're threaded in right there. And if you can see, that threaded in has some room to wiggle when it moves. There's supposed to be that bushing there. Well, the bushing is gone. And this is all that's left of it. See, it's completely worn out, worn through, which is allowing the rod to actually, it moves in and out before it moves the actual clutch pedal. So I'm losing some play there as well. So I went down to my local Advance and got these, just some universal bushings. Hopefully one's the right size. And not to mention the little clip that was holding the actual slave cylinder in on is broken, so it would pop off, well, it would pop over. It also gives some place. So we're gonna replace all these bushings and hopefully be on the road. Let's try. My taillight came in, so that's the last part I'm waiting on for it to be road legal. So if we can get this clutch knocked out, we can hit the streets. So let me throw all this back together real quick and we'll jump to it. All right, so the truck runs, clutch works, the brakes kind of work. I need to bleed them a little bit more, adjust the rears. But of course, 2 steps forward, 12 steps back. We got a problem. The problem is this little girl. She is dripping fuel right about there while the truck is running. There's a weep hole on the inside of the injection pump. Let me show you. This is my rebuilt one. There's a weep hole down here. Right, that little hole right there at the bottom. There's basically, long story short, there's a seal that keeps oil from getting in and fuel from getting out. And if one of those seals goes, that hole is there so it leaks out instead of contaminating. The only way to replace that seal is to pull the pump apart and rebuild it, basically. So, got me a reman pump here. We are going to rip this one out. And then hopefully, heavens to Betsy, we'll be done. Let's hope. These things are real simple to pull out. Undo your wiring, your fuel access there, your main fuel line coming in right there. Take all the caps loose, all the way off on the injectors. Remove this little throttle bracket guy, the throttle cable, whatever. And then this plate comes off, and there's 3 screws in there that hold it in. And then there are, I can't now really see them down there. There are 3 screws that hold this way into the little housing area guy. And then the whole assembly pops out as one big unit. Bob's your uncle, swap the lines, undo it. I'm not gonna really go in depth because there's 1.5 million of these videos on YouTube. I'm just gonna time lapse this joker because let's be honest, I'm tired of working on this truck. But we're gonna rip this out so we can finally get this thing on the road. I went today and put insurance on it. Went to the DMV, of course they were closed. It was a state holiday. So Monday, and we get tagged for this joker. It's Friday right now. We're gonna run this thing, test drive the crap out of it over this weekend. So I gotta get this thing out right now. So I'm gonna set the camera up and we're gonna jump to it. So let's go. All right, so new injection pump is installed. I think there's something wrong with it. It smokes a lot when it's running, like a hazy kind of smoke, not black, just hazy. I've fiddled with the timing a bunch and it doesn't really change anything. And the weird thing is it only runs if the cold advance is getting powered. I had to jump the switch here, the little temperature sensor for the cold advance. And only if I unplug the cold advance, the truck shuts off. And no, it has nothing to do with this. This gets 12 volts constantly with the key on. Has nothing to do with the power on this thing. It only runs if this is getting energized. Don't ask me why. All it does is block off this little return thing. So I don't know what's going on with that. It's Saturday, so I can't call. I got this injection pump through Pensacola Diesel. I think that's the name of it. This is the second injection pump I dealt with from them, and we're 2 for 2 on issues. The first one wouldn't run at all. I put it in a 6.5, and it would not run. You could get it started on starter fluid and floor it, and it would kind of run, and it would run terribly and smoke like crazy. And we ended up having to send it back, and it was a bad injection pump. So I'm gonna call them on Monday and talk to them about this because I don't know what's going on with that. But it will run, and it's not leaking diesel. I don't think it's any better than it was, but it's not leaking diesel. So we're gonna take this thing down the road because I can't wait no longer. So we're gonna jump in it and let's see what she does. All right, now hang on because this is a stick shift. So I've got the tripod seat belted in. So it's gonna be a little bouncy. Doesn't really start up that great either. Started up and ran a heck of a lot better than the old pump. Big window. Wonderful. There goes power there. Well, very clearly leaves some things to be desired. Update, I have advanced the absolute crap out of the injection pump, and the smoke has stopped, which is great. However, it still dies without the cold advance solenoid on. So I advanced this thing as much as I could. You can see, well, you can't really see. There's a mark down there on the timing. I have advanced this thing as much as I can. And it's still, the smoke stopped, which is good. So I'm thinking something's wrong inside of this injection pump, advancement wise. Maybe this is just really retarded inside of the injection pump. Because with the cold advance on, glow plugs. Starts up okay. But without that cold advance, it will not start. But the good news is, the smoke has stopped. So I'm thinking it's just still very retarded in the timing without the cold advance. I'm gonna play around with it, see if I can get any more adjustment out of this thing. As now, she's gonna get until I can get a hold of Pensacola diesel. All right, well, I've officially maxed out the injection pump as advanced as I can get it. It won't go any further. The smoke has stopped, which is great. It still won't start without the cold advance. It'll almost start. It'll sputter a few times. But the minute you plug it in, it fires right up. So it's got to be something internally in this injection pump, timing-wise. Like I said, it's the weekend. I can't call people I got it from, but I'm going to give them a call on Monday. But as of now, we're done. This truck is running, it is driving, it is finished for all intents and purposes. I still gotta fix the AC. I gotta get a wiper motor. And I'm gonna get that wipe on clear coat and just clear coat the whole sucker and take the ugly bed rails off. But for now, it is finished. It has been about 4 months since I brought this thing home, and I am as happy as I can be with this thing. She is in good running condition, so we're gonna go with it. If I hear anything, any update from the injection pump people, will deal with that. Maybe make another video, an update video. But as of now, this is where we're gonna leave it. Thank you guys for watching. This is a lot of talking, sorry about that, but I'm as happy as can be. So thank y'all for watching, and we will see y'all in the next one.